Summer League is done, so let's look back and see how these guys did. Will any of them actually contribute this season? And Grant Williams admitted to being unprofessional at the end of his time in Boston. Okay, let's figure that out right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, Monday through Friday. So why don't you open up your favorite podcasting app, hit subscribe if you're a newbie, and get the show dropped directly to your device. All you everydayers, love that you're here on a regular basis, making the show part of your daily routine. Hop into that YouTube comment section. Let me know what you think about the show, about these topics, about us. And ring the bell there, get notified when we drop a new video. I'm John Karalis. I used to play once upon a time. Now I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. Today, getting into Grant Williams, who admitted in a recent article that he was unprofessional at the end of his time in Boston. It's just an interesting comment, and we'll try to unpack that in a few minutes. But let's take some time to talk about Summer League. And to do that, I got my guy, Tom Westerholm.
What up?
How's it going, Tom?
I'm ready to podcast.
You are ready to podcast.
I'm ready to do a podcast. Let's get it.
I'm ready to do a baking show. I was ready to make some fine tarts with strawberries and creams and stuff.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but like,
all right, fine. I'll pivot. We'll do a podcast. We'll just do a basketball podcast here. The Celtics Summer League, they won a couple of games. They lost a few games. Boo-hoo, they lost a few games. All right, which is the goal, right? The goal is to have an actual crappy Summer League team because that means you're good and you don't have a lot of high-end talent on your team. You don't want to be the Houston Rockets and have like, oh, yeah, look at all of these great players that we have on our team because everybody's young and a high draft pick. So, yeah. Okay. So what's your big takeaway? Your 30,000 foot view, having watched these thrilling Summer League games.
I think my big takeaway is Jordan Walsh.
Yeah, I mean, he has to be the one, right?
Kind of a guy. Like, I don't know.
Interesting guy.
Like,
interesting prospect.
Like, we'll see what happens, right? Like, you never know. I mean, like, no reason, like, it could have just been a hot streak. Could have been whatever. But that shot, I mean, looks a lot better than it did at Arkansas. Looks a lot more confident than it did at Arkansas. And if there's going to be a way for him to get on, I think, I don't think we're talking about a rotation player this year, right? Obviously, I think we've talked about that pretty extensively. We're not talking about a rotation player this year. I think if he's shooting like this right now, it pushes his window up significantly. Like, I think if he's shooting like this right now, I don't think you're talking about like, hey, maybe fourth year, maybe you get lucky and maybe he can contribute. Yeah, you might be looking at some spot minutes here and there this season. Mm-hmm. You might be looking at some real minutes next year when this roster starts to get real crazy expensive and everything starts to really hurt next year. Like, you might be looking at something when you got this highly energetic, unbelievably long, athletic kid who, hey, if he's shooting threes, there's no reason that he can't get on the court. And I've had a couple conversations with his trainer. I mean, the workouts that he's been doing are pretty wild. Like, he's been getting after it. And you really saw the results. And I think that's one of the encouraging things to me is like, everybody puts in work during the summer, right? Like, everybody works and works and works. And like, the fact that we are seeing results with him is, that's pretty interesting.
It is interesting. It's very interesting. And you look at the overall number, and it's 5 games. It was like 11 for 27, which is just under 41%. So you say, wow, he shot 41% for Summer League. That's pretty good. Small sample, obviously, but the number looks good. I think that was propped up by an early hot streak and a late hot streak.
Yes.
And I think the streakiness is the part where I'm going to say, yes, the shooting was nice, but the streakiness tells me that he is right now strictly a confidence shooter. He's not the guy that's just going to say,
right.
I don't think he thinks, oh, no problem, this next one's going to fall. Yeah. I think he keeps shooting because the Celtics have told him, you better be shooting that ball out there, which, when I said going into it, that's the one thing I want to see. Jordan Walsh taking as many 3-pointers as possible. I don't care if he missed all of them. Just keep on shooting and keep getting him to shoot with confidence. And hey, if I'm 19 years old and I've got Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla and Tony Dobbins come up to me like, shoot the ball, I'd be like, yeah, sure. I'll shoot. Yes, sir. Exactly. Shooting commenced. It's like Spaceballs. You drop it. Keep firing. It's because it's a lockdown podcast. I couldn't finish that quote. But, I think the Celtics kind of push to get him to keep shooting in part was like, we want you. This is what you're going to be as a player.
Yeah.
But a secondary thing is you're going to have to learn that you're going to miss shots and you're going to have to keep taking them, because what you can't be at this next level, and we don't know what Jordan Walsh is going to be. Is he going to develop into some untapped like megastar at some point? I doubt it, but hey,
definitely.
At this point, we get to fantasize about Jordan Walsh, future MVP, or hey, Jordan Walsh, future, Philippines League All-Star. I don't know which way this is going to go, but whatever it is, he has to understand that you got to keep shooting wherever you're going to be. You're just going to have to keep shooting because you have to get into that mindset of, this next one's going to fall. It doesn't matter that I've missed. And I think there were probably stretches where he might have not shot in Summer League had he just been under normal circumstances. So the streakiness is something that stands out to me in that he's capable of finding it, but it's also capable of going away.
Totally.
And that's something that he's ultimately obviously going to have to overcome. I do think that there are tweaks, little minor tweaks. I got to watch him a little bit more closely, but when I was watching him at the one practice that I was able to go to before they left for Vegas, I obviously didn't go to Vegas. I'm very curious to see how the ball comes off his hand consistently. Like, I didn't like some bit of his follow through. And I felt like there might be a little case of, is there a ring finger involved in this ball coming off your hand? Is that pushing the ball a little too far one way or the other? Are you releasing it I got to take a closer look. There might be, it's not exactly taping a ping pong paddle to Romeo Langford's hand, but there may be some kind of, hey, focus on the ball coming off your hand this way. And when you actually turn your wrist a little bit this way, you're shooting it better. When your wrist kind of relaxes and you're shooting it off of your, the three end fingers, you end up missing. So there's some kind of like little thing there that if they can fix that little tweak, then I think he actually has the potential to be a more consistent shooter. So that is to say, I think he has potential to be pretty good.
Yeah, the thing that his trainer told me that they worked on mechanically, there was only one thing that they really worked extensively on mechanically, and it was the two fingers, right? Not getting the ring finger involved and dangling it, right? Like doing, just like that, kind of like.
Oh, great. So that's actually great because I'm glad that confirms a little bit of what I saw. I'm not a lunatic.
You were saying that. I was like, oh no, that was it. that was that was the thing. Yeah. So that was the big mechanical thing that they worked on this summer. And that he said that like it was very noticeable, right? It was like when he was making the shots, it was, like when he was really consistent, it was, it was coming off his hand the right way. And when he wasn't, it was, that was something. But I do think, they've definitely identified some stuff, and they've definitely put in a lot of work. And I think, you talk about the streakiness, and I think that is something he's going to have to overcome. But I do think also, the fact that he's willing to keep taking them is such a good sign. And obviously he's getting encouraged to do it. But I just think like he's off to such a good start, right? Like you come out of Arkansas, like not just a non-shooter, like the ultimate non-shooter. Like people are just like, please, I am begging you to take that shot. And you come to summer league and like this little bit of a confidence boost. Like, hey, if you're a young player, right, and you go to summer league and you knock down a bunch of shots, that tells you that you can do it, and that's a good thing, right? Like that's a good building block going forward.
Let's see what kind of building block. What does that lead to this year? And is there anybody else that we saw in the summer that will contribute? We'll talk about that next. First, today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks Daily Fantasy, done the right way. Daily fantasy that you can actually enjoy because it's you and the projections. You're not playing me. You're not playing experts. You're not facing some sort of algorithm. It's you and basically any sport that you want to watch, soccer, tennis, anything, all of it. There are projections all across the board. And you pick 2 to 6 players, and if you pick the projection the right way, more or less than whatever PrizePicks has determined, you can win up to 25 times your money. That's it. It's you. It's the numbers. Get them right. You win. No competing against other people. All of these sports and like sports from around the world, you get basically anything that you want. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. So you would be done making your PrizePicks selections by the time I finished reading this ad and telling you about PrizePicks. Safe and fast withdrawals because you want your money quickly. And it's currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. So go to prizepicks.com or the PrizePicks app, sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users, you get a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. So deposit whatever you want up to $100. PrizePicks matches that exact number up to $100. And that's only if you use the promo code Locked On at sign up. You get an instant deposit match. Sign up at prizepicks.com or on the PrizePicks app. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day, part of your daily routine. I'm here Monday through Friday until the end of the month. Then next month, August, we're going to drop down to 3 days a week. And at the end of September, back up to 5 days a week. So you're basically getting about 6 weeks of reduced content before we get back up to the 5 days a week. That's a lot of podcasting about the Boston Celtics. Tom Westerholm. That's a lot of podcasting. And
that's a lot of podcasting, not a lot of baking.
Not a lot of baking.
No.
Yeah.
Tough hit.
I'm a terrible baker. I'm a better cook.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like baking is like classical music. It has to be exactly right. It's just precise. And when it's all precise, it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Cooking is like jazz music. You can riff. You be, you know what? Boom. A little more salt. Oh, you know what? Give me some of that basil. Boom. Give me some of that. How about some lemon? Boom. Here we go. That's jazz. Maybe it's crazy. I love to cook. I love
grilling.
jazz.
Grilling is like the blues because then it's like all in like the pentatonic blues scale, just this real like it's just like, yeah, I think I'm gonna flip it over now. All right,
there you go. Yeah. Let's get back to Jordan Walsh. My high end for him, I'm calling him specialty minutes, and I think
this year
I'm calling him specialty minutes. I think that might be part of why they gave him that guaranteed deal, the second round pick exception deal, which is basically 4 years, $8 million with a team option in the fourth year. They believe in him, obviously, and probably you probably get 2 good years out of him at that $2 million. That's going to be really, really helpful. down the road. You got to play that game, and he'll make plenty of money, I think, after that. But this upcoming season and the following one, maybe not quite as much.
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see. But I think he will be capable of specialty minutes. And I mean the minutes where the Celtics have a defensive possession at the end of the first half, 15 seconds on the clock, and you want to throw your best defensive lineup out there, and he might be your best option or a good option in an all defense lineup. Or you're trying to protect a 7-point lead in the last 45 seconds, you're going offense, defense, and he might be able to give you some defensive possessions with his length and his versatility. So I wouldn't be surprised if I saw some of that this year. But other than that, I would say my expectation is mostly main, and every once in a while he'll be spotted at the end of the Celtics bench.
Yeah, I think I could definitely see that. I think I might be very slightly higher on his this year projection than you are. Not much though. I mean, I think specialty minutes is the right way of putting it. Like, I think you're talking about a guy who's like foul trouble insurance and that kind of thing. Like, and then like you said, like maybe like maybe some spot minutes here or there. And certainly some main. I think next year, most of it depends on his shot and his body, right? Like how much can you be, like we talked about the shot. I think that's going to come around. If it continues to come around, great. But I think the other big thing is like, okay, you're a wing, right? Like you're going to be facing some powerful dudes. Like you're going to, and you're going to be switching onto some powerful dudes, and but also you're going to be switching onto some real quick dudes. It's the NBA. Yeah. Like, sometimes you'll be facing powerful and quick dudes. Like, it's your body has to get right. And I think, he seems like a really hard worker. He seems like a guy who's certainly going to put the hours in and the attention in. It's also got to put the calories in. Like he's got to get stronger. He's got to just kind of improve that way. But if he does all that, I think, next year, maybe low end, I think the comparisons to Grant Williams are like really, really optimistic and premature.
Yeah.
But I also think that, like, if you look at the way Grant was used this year, where it was kind of just the very bottom of the rotation, right? Just like in and out and in and out and in and out of the rotation. Maybe like that's, I think, the high end for him next year.
Probably. Yeah, probably. I think one thing that he's going to benefit from when we talk about being on the team with a guy like Jayson Tatum, obviously you should benefit from learning a lot of things from a guy like Jayson Tatum. But Tatum came into the league with the exact same directive: eat food, eat calories, right, lift weights. And the thing about Tatum is he's been able to put a lot of muscle on without changing his body type necessarily. He's still, it's been gradual. It's been, I think, a lot more strength based and not necessarily about adding bulk. It's just about getting stronger.
Right.
And I think he can learn from Tatum's kind of, hey, when you were a rookie and they told you to put on weight for the league, how did you do it? What did you do? How do you do it without affecting your shot? How do you do it without impacting your quickness and your explosiveness and all of that stuff? And I think that's going to be where Tatum helps Jordan Walsh in his rookie year the most. Yeah. And Walsh will get to guard him in training camp. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. Like, that's going to be get ready to get roasted. Talk about grilling. This dude's going to get barbecued like crazy. But that's going to be great for him. That's exactly what he needs. But getting that guidance of a meal plan, how to eat, the mistakes that Tatum made, because remember, Tatum only in the past couple of seasons talked about, got to change my diet and all of that.
Yeah.
So all of that
is recent. That was a big thing as recently as this year. Like, talked about changing his diet so he wasn't so tired.
Yep. And that's a big thing. It's very
Now
easy.
he's just got to change his diet so he doesn't sprain his ankle in Game 7.
Yeah. Well, yes, that. But when you're Jordan Walsh, 19 years old, super skinny, and you're told, hey, you know what? You should probably be eating like 8,000 calories a day. It's very easy to be like, oh, great. 2 large pizzas, please.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the wrong way to get the calories. And in the off season, sure, you can kind of go nuts a little bit, but it's you got to make sure that you're getting your calories the right way, that your body's getting certain mixes of your proteins and carbs and all of that stuff in a certain, you can't just be eating like, oh yeah, I'll have 5 Big Macs and here we go. I need to eat the calories anyway.
Yeah.
Because that gets you're not going to be finishing first in those sprints by doing that. So all of that stuff from Tatum is going to be super, super huge for Walsh, because I really do think that Walsh comes in with a similar kind of build to that Tatum had in the, maybe not as broad shouldered, but a similar kind of build and a similar directive. And I think that level of expertise from Tatum is going to be where Walsh kind of picks up a lot of important tips that get him to a place. The shooting and all of that stuff, that's all that'll all come. That's coaching, and that's all that's all going to be there. But the rest of that stuff, the experience stuff, that's going to be really, really important for a guy like Tatum, who went from super skinny to he's kind of a beast right now. That's going to be important information. We'll just kind of touch on the rest of the guys who can make a contribution in just a second, and we'll get into Grant Williams stuff. First, I want to say thank you to everybody for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Check out the Locked On NBA podcast. I'll be on there tomorrow, the Wednesday podcast. I host that with Jake Madison. Locked On NBA has you covered across the league. Find it wherever you found this podcast. Okay, so any other guys, Tom, that you think are going to make any sort of contribution here from the Summer League?
No, I mean, like, I think I'm intrigued by, I remain intrigued by Davison. I think, like, when you've got that kind of like athleticism at that position, it's just interesting. You know, he's got like, he's got good size and athleticism at that position. It's like, huh, he makes that obscene behind the back, like wraparound pass in that last game. I mean, just
incredible.
Stupid. What a pass. Like, so nice. Like, I mean, that was obviously great. I think the, like Jay Scrubb, I mean, sure, like I'm fascinated by his story. I think when you go back to like his JUCO days, right. And you're talking about this guy who, like, looked like for all the world like a lottery pick playing junior college basketball, right? Because he had every single thing in his game. He had the 3-point shot, the finishing around the rim, the absurd athleticism, the great body type. Like, he had all this stuff, and then he had all this Division I interest, and then he ends up like declaring for the draft and going late in the second round. And it's like, dang, dude, I think you maybe should have gone to that Division I. I think you should have committed to Louisville. It's like, I think maybe you should have given Louisville a shot, man. Build your profile up a little bit. But I mean, he's really interesting to me just because, like, his path has been so windy and such a sliding doors situation that I'm curious to see what happens with him. I don't think he's going to contribute to the Boston Celtics in 2023-24, but I mean, I think he's certainly a fascinating story. I hope he, I don't know. It'd be cool to see him. Cool to see him succeed a little bit because he's had a very, very odd path to the NBA.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's sometimes you get bad advice, and so we'll see. I think Scrubb. I think guys like Scrubb, Champagny have an opportunity to be like emergency scorers, emergency shooter type of guy, and you never know. Look, it's always weird in the NBA. Somebody goes down with a sprained ankle. Jaylen pulls a hammy, and you never know when an opportunity is just going to pop up somewhere. and all of a sudden maybe you're Austin Reeves. Like that dude came out of nowhere, and it's like, oh damn, okay, yeah, let's keep this guy around. Who knows when the right opportunity is going to present itself for any of these guys, and whether they're in a position to take it. I agree. I don't think anybody else is going to make a contribution this year. I think this is a super important year for Davison. He has to show that he can handle a half court point guard role in the open court.
And there's something there, right? Like, I'm not taking crazy pills. Like, there's something there. He's like,
there is. It's just got to be consistent. He just has to be more consistent.
And he can't turn it over. Yeah.
You can't have those lapses. You can't have those turnovers. You can't have that. And hopefully he gets it together. But this is going to be a critical season for him. Yeah. He's got to dominate in Maine. He has to dominate in Maine. He has to learn how to be that point guard, or else he's going to end up getting, let go. And he might get another opportunity. He could come around again in 5 years and be a decent point guard somewhere else. But the opportunity in Boston, hey, you know what? You got a very short window with a team like this. So you're not going to get a chance to cut your teeth at the NBA level. You got to figure it out at the lower level and come in and be ready to compete against these big boys in camp and show something. And if you can't, then you can't. Then you're done. And it's tough once you make that kind of impression on a coach. If the coach all of a sudden says, need to show me more, kid, then you're always going to be the guy who needs to show him more. Yeah, and it's going to be a little bit tougher, when they say, hey, he's had this run in Maine. Like, I don't know. I didn't like what I saw that last time. You get that like hesitance. So it's tough. Look, whenever you get on a coach's bad side, it can be difficult, which brings me to Grant Williams and that whole situation. Grant Williams admitted to Adam Himmelsbach in a recent Globe piece that he had a couple of weeks of being very unprofessional at the end of the season. And I don't know what that means. There was no follow-up. I mean, there might have been a follow-up in the actual interview, but there's no follow-up printed in the piece. I don't know what it was that he was unprofessional about, but I will say this, just like I was saying with JD Davison. And I said this when Grant was the whole talk of him was being traded. And I think I might've said it after he was traded. You felt like Joe Mazzulla was and had some input in this, because clearly there was a falling out. Clearly Mazzulla just was like, no, I'm kind of done with Grant. He could tell that he said he kept a public face and was very good about all that stuff, but it was very obvious that he was done with Grant. He treated Grant in a way that he didn't treat other players. Grant had no margin for error. He just got pulled from lineups and never went back. He had that. I'll just never forget the two bad fouls against Joel Embiid when it was, in that playoff series. We're thinking like, okay, here comes Grant. He had just had a previous game. He was good. And you think, all right, Grant could be a difference maker in the series. He had two bad fouls. He looked kind of goofy doing it. And then sit down, buddy. And you're like, okay, I get it. But why are you pulling him completely? I just think the unprofessional comment that he just had kind of confirms to me, like, yeah, I think Joe was just like, I am done with this dude. If you want to trade him, by all means, trade him.
Yeah, that is what that suggests. The only pushback I have is that do remember that when Grant talks, sometimes it's a bit of a runaway train. Like, I don't know that he always, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? You've talked to Grant many times.
Like, I try to avoid a spit take on the YouTube. Yes, it is very much a runaway train.
And so sometimes I think he's just there are times where I think Grant is just kind of vibing when he's talking. Like, he's not really, you just gotta, whatever comes out. And then, like, and so that's the only, like, I wonder I mean, like I think it's very likely that he was unprofessional and that Joe Mazzulla got sick of him, and that like that tracks with everything we saw during the season. I'd be fascinated to know, like, as the train was leaving the tracks, like okay, unprofessional. What do you mean? What do you mean
Yeah.
unprofessional? Like, what'd you do? Like, talk about that. Was it
Yeah.
the well, was it all the like the dribble drives? Were you trying to do? Was it you trying to do too much? Like, what, were you whiny? Like, what was, But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
I would expect. My guess is that
was it the referees? Because that was my first thought. Was like he was like unprofessional with like the refs for a bit, because he did tamp that down. So that's one where it's like, okay, there's like a very tangible, okay, this dude's being kind of a turd, and then like
maybe.
so, yeah, that was one suggestion I had.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess it was something more behind the scenes. Because I don't know, maybe it was stuff with the refs, maybe, but I feel like there might have been some behind the scenes stuff that he was kind of copping to. Again, I don't know what it was, and I know Adam Himmelsbach certainly asked because he's good at what he does, and that's the obvious follow up.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that Grant was just be like, nah, I'm not going to talk about that, and kind of like left it at that. But I'm very curious to see what it was. I just feel like his relationship with Mazzulla from a player coach perspective, it was very clear in the piece that on a personal level, they seem to like each other. But from a player coach perspective, it felt like there was some kind of pushback there. If anything, I'm going to say Grant probably did stuff on the court that was in full like violation, in direct conflict with what Joe Mazzulla wanted. And he was just like, you know what? You're going to bench me anyway. I'm just going to do my own thing. And yeah, so I think maybe some of the dribble drives that you're talking about a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It is a little bit disappointing, but also Grant's a young guy. He is a good basketball player. And when you're expecting to be a big player on, have a big role on a championship level team while you're in a contract year, I think things can play games with your head. It can play games with your head. And I don't think Grant is an unprofessional player. I don't think Grant is generally an unprofessional guy. He's always been a good guy, overly good. Like, it doesn't make sense that he would be that way. So I just feel like all the circumstances probably got to him. And if anything, it's a good learning experience, but it probably cost him a chance to be part of the Celtics. I don't know if he wasn't unprofessional, if he would still be here or not, but I do feel like the Celtics had an opportunity to keep him around a little bit longer and try to figure it out. And instead they just said, nope, we're going to give him away. We're going to give him away. And we'll play our financial games now. I didn't think they needed to play their financial games this summer. I think they could have done it next summer a little bit more earnestly. Maybe this had a role. I don't know, but kind of tough to hear. And hey, moving on, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, it was always, always seemed like an overly good guy. It's just like at this point, I think everybody, honestly, it feels like one of those breakups that's like, okay, this needed to happen. Hopefully it's good for every party involved. Because
come back 10 years later and be like, oh, I was such a different person back then.
Totally.
Sorry for being a jerk.
Yeah.
Not that I speak from experience or anything. All right. Thanks, Tom Westerholm, for hopping on once again. Appreciate you, man. And thank you all for listening, for being a part of the program, for making this show part of your daily routine, and for subscribing. If you're new, you can subscribe on your favorite app. You can subscribe on YouTube. Hop into the comment section. Send us a note. Let me know what you think. And if you're an everydayer, if you are just here Monday through Friday, then I would love it if you took the next step and share the podcast. Tell your friends. Tell everybody that you see. Yell it from the car windows driving down Sturo Drive. No, don't do that. Don't do that. That's dangerous. But like on Beacon Street at a stoplight or something like that, that'd be cool. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.